Hi everybody, it's a Friday night, May 18th, 5 minutes after 7 Eastern Time. I'm meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Good to see everybody here, starting a little bit later than usual. We like to go for a 6 o'clock start on most nights, but I decided to push it back an hour tonight just to maybe catch a few more of you with the evening commutes home. We're starting to get to the summer weekends, and that might maybe allow a few of you to catch the live stream if I started it a bit later tonight, but no matter. Hope everybody's got a good weekend planned. It's not going to be the best of weather in many areas of the U.S., and we've got a busy weather map to look at tonight. We've got a pretty interesting satellite loop here off to my left. I got to remember, I got to point opposite when I'm doing this. Off to the left, showing the problems going on in the eastern states, and then that tropical connection of moisture that is running from the Caribbean on northward. And then right underneath, you could see the Storm Prediction Center's map that is overlaying the current radar, and we've got some severe weather action going on. But I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the U.S. satellite view, and I'm going to bring it up full screen here. Big hellos to everybody on board. I see a number of you are all joining up, and that's a good thing. Here's the cloud structure here, the satellite signature here in the northeast, which we have been just kind of sitting in for days now. Seems like it's been going on for weeks. We just can't seem to buy any kind of nice weather or sun from sunrise to sunset, and it's busy. You've got a lot of cloud cover here, and some activity in terms of some showers and thunderstorms. I'm going to let me bring this a bit, make this a little bit smaller, and just come up full screen so we can take a look at what's happening here with respect to the upper pattern. And you know, it's we've got this persistent trough, and if you look at these new GOES satellites are just amazing because you could see the layers of the clouds. It's not just like you're looking at one flat surface, but you can actually see all the different layers. And there is a rather well-defined upper trough sitting in the central Gulf states. And this is problematic here because if you follow the flow along, I'm just going to draw this a little bit wider. And you know, these are how the upper winds are functioning. And here's out in the Atlantic, you've got a big upper high sitting off the Atlantic seaboard that remains in place. And as a result, the winds are coming up from the tropics, or the subtropics certainly, and then right up the east coast around the periphery of that ridge, and with the trough out to the west that supports bringing up even more moisture. Now, just to the north of here's the ridge, the top of the ridge where the winds turn westerly, we do have a bit of a northern jet that, if we follow that along, is doing something like this. But unfortunately, it's too far north, and that's where all the dry air is. Some of that dry air worked its way down into the northeast, into my area, pushing the rain further south. But this is going to give way, and that's going to allow this moisture to move up the coast. If you are betting on the Preakness tomorrow, bet on a sloppy track. There will be some rain, although the showers may pull out early enough in the. If the showers do pull out early enough in the day, Pimlico is a very fast drying racetrack. That track can dry quickly if once the rain stops. So don't be too surprised if the track starts out sloppy, and if the rain goes away, you wind up with a much different type of track condition. Meanwhile, I'm going to just bring this picture up fresh. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try it this way. Let me just reload that U.S. satellite, because I want to at least show you where we've got some thunderstorm activity going. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen either, but we'll zoom in a little bit and back into the Central Plains and back through Kansas. So it's right in here where we have severe weather issues tonight that are going to be developing in this area, and points to the east. I may have this drawn a little bit too far to the west, but we can see the higher cloud tops that are forming here, and also down into parts of Texas and Oklahoma. So more than likely, I guess the biggest risk is probably going to be something like this as we go through the rest of this afternoon and into tonight. And in fact, when we bring up, we'll go to the Storm Prediction Center's map, and I'm going to come back to this a little bit later too, because the satellite, because I wanted to also talk about the situation for next week, and we mentioned it yesterday with regards to if something is going to try and come out of the tropics as a separate low. But we'll deal with the current weather situation here. And as far as severe weather is concerned, you can see where the slight risk and enhanced risk: eastern Colorado, much of Kansas, southern parts of Nebraska, and into North Texas and western Oklahoma. And the blue boxes that are up there, those blue polygons, I guess it's probably the better way to put it, you've got the latest severe thunderstorm watches that have been posted up for parts of North Texas, western Oklahoma, up into Kansas, and back into southeastern Colorado. Marginal risk goes all the way up into the Dakotas, and there's a general area of thunderstorms, also a small area of marginal risk in and around southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi, including New Orleans. And notice with that tropical flow coming up, you're getting some showers and thunderstorms that are developing. Now, the thunderstorms that are forming in the east, that really is producing heavy rains. They are not producing severe weather in terms of strong gusty winds, etc. This is really more a rain issue, and as a result of that, we've got flood watches up all over the place. If I can remember what I did with the warnings map, and I just did find it, so we'll bring that up front and center here. And we've got a lot of flood watches up throughout southern Pennsylvania, and now those flood watches that extended up into parts of northern New Jersey have been canceled. Southern New Jersey, the flood watches remain in effect, and down into Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, parts of eastern West Virginia, and now into an expanding area in North Carolina, and the red indicating flash flood warnings that are ongoing at the moment. We've got flood watches up also for northern Colorado, a small area of southeastern Wyoming into parts of Nebraska, and then in that salmon color you see the severe thunderstorm watches, which we showed you just a minute or so ago. The red flag warnings that are up for the dry areas in West Texas and New Mexico. So kind of busy in severe weather land. We can bring up tomorrow's risk of severe weather, as we have that here loaded up for you, so at least we can get a sneak peek of what Saturday is going to bring as far as heavy thunderstorms are concerned. And there are two areas of risk. You've got a marginal risk in parts of Ohio and into eastern Kentucky, western West Virginia, western Pennsylvania, and the more impressive area is going to be the one that's coming out of the Rockies and the Plains, and moves a little bit further to the east. So we've got a slight risk of severe weather in eastern Kansas and in eastern Nebraska, much of southern Iowa, northwestern Missouri, and a small area of enhanced risk that covers 4 states there where they intersect, where the borders touch each other: Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. So this is our situation for Saturday, and you can see the general area of thunderstorms that's being indicated as well. So it looks like it's going to be a rather busy day. Now we've got a few things going on with respect to rain, and I want to find that my Northeast regional radar, so we can talk about areas specific to my forecast coverage, which is eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. And here we go. This is the current view of the radar. The dry air from southeastern Canada and New England was able to shift this rain southward. So you have to really go down into southern Delaware now in the Delmarva Peninsula and over back through Virginia, where we are seeing some heavy downpours there. That area is now getting ready to rev up and lift northward. So we'll see this rain area push northward overnight to about New York City in the early morning hours, maybe 3 or 4 a.m., probably getting to Philadelphia around 1 or 2 a.m., and New York City about, say, 4 a.m., and we'll have a solid shot of rain tomorrow morning into about midday, and then there will be some other downpours to deal with during the afternoon into tomorrow evening. We also have an onshore flow, which means temperatures will probably drop down into the low 50s here and then struggle their way through the 50s and back maybe into the low 60s by later tomorrow night. So where are we going with all of this? Well, there's a couple of things happening in the upper pattern that I think are important for next week. You know, this tropical pattern that we've been in, where we have this trough in the Gulf states, extending down into the Caribbean, and that upper ridge that's off the East Coast. Well, that's going to weaken a little bit, at least for a day or two next week, where that tropical connection is going to be broken. It's not going to extend all the way up the coast, all the way up the East Coast. Instead, it's going to flatten out a bit. But that troughing is going to remain in the Gulf of Mexico down into toward the Yucatan Peninsula. So this is going to create a weakness, and pressures are going to be low in the southern area, the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, and in the northwestern Caribbean. So I think it lends to the possibility of something developing, maybe spinning up later next week. If you been watching on and off for the last 2 weeks, we've noted how the GFS in particular has kept spinning up tropical storms and actually full-blown hurricanes in its long range in the day to 11 to 16 time frame, but they never moved inside the 10-day time frame. So it seemed like there was something inherent in the model that was causing this to happen. Well, a few things have changed. One important thing is that other models are now showing it. It's now inside getting inside the 7-day time frame, so it's giving us a little bit more confidence that perhaps something may try and spin up. And when we look at the structure of what's out there in the upper atmosphere and the lower atmosphere, it is the kind of situation that if this were, say, deeper into the month of June, or certainly if we were talking about something later in the tropical season, this would probably be a no-brainer in terms of development. The problem this time of year is this time of year. It is, we're talking the last days of May. Tropical storm development is not unheard of, but it is unusual. If it's going to happen, the climatologically favorable area is the Northwest Caribbean, Southeastern Gulf. That would make sense, but you really have to kind of get into the month of June before you start to see the numbers increase in terms of how much activity you've seen there historically. The water temperatures, they are warm enough in the Northwest Caribbean, but they're still kind of cool in the Gulf of Mexico. They all, even in the warmest spots are in the Southeast Gulf or in the low 80s, but there are a lot of areas in the northern Gulf of Mexico and even along the Florida coast where the water temperatures are still not quite there yet to support something, to support any kind of system, any kind of storm system. So if the bottom line is that regardless of whether something spins up or not, we are going to have that moisture flow and that trough still in place. Now here's what the situation in the east, and of course we get through the rain tomorrow. If you look down through Kansas and through Missouri and into southeastern Nebraska and Iowa, which is where the severe weather risk is indicated there, the GFS does show that energy coming out. A weather front moves through the northeast on Sunday with maybe some showers and thunderstorms, but we continue to see the tropical flow producing rain, heavy rains in parts of Florida and the southeast into early next week. Bit of a break in the northeast on Monday before we start to see another one of these warm front, cold front combinations move on through. And then later next week, if you look down along about Thursday, you start to see what looks like a low that's coming out of the northwestern Caribbean and heading over Cuba and perhaps out over, who knows after that, whether that goes there or if it goes into the eastern Gulf. You know, maybe this winds up being subtropical in nature. I don't know yet, but I think that, you know, you certainly have the upper air that would be suggestive of something happening. And with respect to the upper pattern, as we back it up, let me just show you the change here that occurs. Now, I'm going to start with tonight. There's your big upper high off the East Coast. You've got your trough. Looks like a weak upper low sitting near St. Louis, and a trough that extends southward from there off the Florida West Coast and down into the northwestern Caribbean. So you follow those lines, the height lines that run across Cuba northward to South Carolina, North Carolina. That's a southerly flow. In between the high and the low, you've got a southerly flow in the upper layers of the atmosphere. That is pulling up all that tropical moisture. So you look at this, and then you look at the satellite, and the satellite, you know, now it kind of makes sense. If you look and see where the clouds are, there's your upper, where that arc back westward into the Ohio Valley. So that's where, you know, you've got this upper low, this weak upper low near St. Louis. This is the satellite structure of the cloud cover. So that southerly flow has all this tropical rich moisture that's in the Northwest Caribbean that comes into the U.S. But as of now, no surface low has yet to spin up. So that might be the one thing that changes next week. Actually, the GFS and a couple of the other models spit up two surface lows. One on Sunday night, Monday in the northwestern Gulf, in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. That, you know, doesn't amount to much. It's just like the one the other day, a few days ago, where we saw a low spin up or try to spin up, but it really didn't develop into anything. We'll probably see another one spin up over the weekend into early next week, but it's the one later next week. And as we take a look at that upper flow, now that ridge starts to flatten out. You can see that the jet in Canada comes down, which at least puts a stop to the tropical air going all the way up the eastern seaboard. But the problem is in that westerly flow, you do have some short waves that'll be moving through here. So there'll be another warm front, cold front combination to deal with Tuesday and Tuesday night. But as we move through the latter part of next week, you start to see that weakness that's evident in the Gulf of Mexico. So that troughing is still there. A bit of a northwest flow that moves its way down into Northern Virginia, but you still have a bit of a tropical connection, at least into the southeast, and it's from here that you wind up with perhaps some kind of system that moves out of there and moves up northward. So we'll see. It's very early in the game. You know, this is not something that I would be especially, you know, nervous about. What I honestly believe at this point is that even if something were to happen, this certainly would be a system where rain is going to be a bigger deal. And again, even if we do not see any kind of development out of this, you're going to have to deal with the moisture feed that's going to continue to run up into Florida and into at least the southeastern part of the U.S. Okay, we've got a royal wedding tomorrow, and at the very least, we should take a look. I've been binge watching The Crown the last couple of days, but Big High is sitting over England and Ireland this evening, and at 6 a.m. should be nice and dry throughout all of the UK. At noontime, looks like the same, nice and dry. I don't know how much sun you're going to have, but I would think you'd have at least some breaks of sun there. And it doesn't look like any showers get into the mix here until Sunday for parts of, late Saturday night, Sunday for parts of Ireland and northern Scotland. But much of England stays dry into early next week. So for the big day tomorrow, you know, the Queen's paying for this, so she wants nice weather. So we got to at least accommodate her from that standpoint. It's looking good. I don't know if any of you watched The Crown or have been watching Victoria on PBS when it was on. I think those are two really great shows, and I'm really enjoying The Crown very much, and all the politics and the intrigue into well, there's not a whole lot of intrigue, but you know, but there is some, and just kind of getting a feel for how royalty functions. And I got to tell you, it doesn't look like it's fun. Your life is kind of dictated for you. You can't really do very much, but no matter. We'll save that for another time. Let me come back up to with you guys on the board here. Glad to see everybody around. Israel, figure about 3 a.m. for rain to start tonight in Lakewood, New Jersey. And I think most rainfall amounts in northern New Jersey will be on the order of about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Heavier amounts will probably be in South Jersey, where there could be another 1 to 1.25 inches, maybe even an odd spot gets a little bit more than that. But I don't think we're going to see big rain amounts in the northern part of New Jersey, at least. Bryce T. Good to see you back. And am I predicting an above average or possibly just as active as last year? We don't have an El Nino or La Nina going on, so I mean, everything to me kind of looks at the very least it should be an average year, maybe a little bit above average. So I'll probably kind of lean toward the above average side. It seems like most years we've been either, you know, challenging the top end of average or above average. So I'll just keep going with the idea that the trend is your friend. And Charles Baker singing in the Rain, which was on last week on Turner Classic Movies, by the way. Good to see Dio Nankamar. David Fuller is on. David Schwartz, Abedin Durakovic, Priscilla Mayo. Good to see everybody here. All the regulars. James NASCAR fan. Isaiah Jacob. The water is still extremely cool up here. It certainly is. Water temperatures are still only up in the low 50s, and you know, it's taken a while. The water temperatures are really struggling to warm up for whatever reason. I'm not sure exactly, you know, what is going on. So we are going to, I think, put an end to it here tonight, folks. It's a Friday. You should be out doing some fun stuff. So by all means, go ahead and enjoy yourselves. We've got a weekend ahead. I should be able to live stream over the weekend at some point on Saturday and again on Sunday. So we'll keep you up to date on all the goings on. In the meantime, just trying to think if there's any other things I wanted to tell you guys today, weather-wise. Really isn't. It's the end of the week. Been kind of a busy week. Having a grandchild that arrived a week ago today, so I'm still kind of in that, you know, amazement mode here. So it's been keeping me extra busy. David Fuller did do a bit of bass fishing on and off over the last couple of weeks, and if the rain stops long enough this weekend, I may try to do some bass fishing if not tomorrow, maybe on Sunday. But I got to get the skies to cooperate. Mirtha Gunter is on. Good to see you. Hope everything is okay in North Carolina land. Pretty soon we're going to start to get the usual tropical people on here. That disappear to the wintertime. The snow lovers disappear at this time, and the tropical people come back. So thanks very much for being here. I just want to say very quickly, there's a link to Amazon on the descriptor to the live stream and on this video. It's a great way to support my channel. If you just, if you're going to shop on Amazon, you shop by using the link here, and Amazon provides me an opportunity to earn fees from which they pay, you don't pay. So just want to let you know that. I appreciate it if you do use that link. Thank you very much for those of you who have. or at least go in there and use the search box. Have a great weekend. We will, again, we'll live stream tomorrow and on Sunday at some point. At 9:15 tonight, the Joe Cioffi Show, or the Joe and Joe Weather Show, 9:15 on my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi, and also on Joe Rayo's page, Joe Rayo Weather. And thank you, Timothy Veltman, for not disappearing on me. I really, really appreciate it. And you can watch the replay of the live stream as it goes up on the video. I think they keep it up for about 4 hours before they take it down. And either way, it goes into the video library on this channel, on my YouTube channel. So you can always pull it down and watch it later. 9:15 on Facebook, folks. We will see you there.